Labour are set to launch their election manifesto later, a plan they say would transform Britain for the better.
But will taxing the rich and scrapping university tuition fees be enough to win the votes needed to close the Conservative lead? Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell joins us from Bradford, where the manifesto launch is taking place. Very good morning to you. Can you finally then put some flesh on the bones of taxing the top 5%?
Well, look, sorry to disappoint you. You'll have to hold on for a couple of hours. When we launched the manifesto at 11 o'clock this morning, we're going to do as we promised. We'll set out the policy proposals, the detailed costings, and then the funding source. And the tax rates will be part of that announcement.
You wouldn't dispute, though, you're going to be clobbering the rich to help those who are not rich?
Piers, certainly not. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We're simply asking for a modest additional contribution from those higher earnings, the top 5%. 95% of people, earners, we've said there'll be no income tax increase, there'll be no increase in VAT or national insurance contributions. But you'll see, I think it's simply trying to establish a fairer tax system where we can all contribute towards paying for our public services fairly.
But do you guys have any real concept of what rich is? You know, you set this barrier at £80,000 as if somehow that makes people rich. And maybe it is if you live, you know, in some, I don't know, if you live far up north in Scotland or whatever, then 80,000 might sound a lot of money, right? If you live in London, in the centre of London, trying to survive on £80,000 a year, I can tell you for a lot of people, it's pretty tough to be called rich by the Labour Party.
Yes.
And then to have a Labour leader who disputed that £137,000 salary that he hoovers up a year makes him a wealthy man. You can see there are mixed messages here.
Well, let's be clear. All we're talking about is the 5% of higher earnings. I understand the situation for people in London in particular, and that's largely to do with housing costs. That's why you'll see in our manifesto later today, we've already made some announcements that we'll be making significant interventions in the housing market in terms of building 1 million new homes. And again, we'll be looking to see how we can support people who are renting their properties too. But look, I don't underestimate the way in which we need to fund our public services will affect some people. But we're trying to make sure that it's a modest contribution from those higher earners, the top 5%. And obviously, that will be graduated.
And there will be, I'm sure, lots of people who think it's perfectly reasonable that those earning more should pay a little bit more, especially when, you know, schools and the NHS particularly feel like they're in crisis. But it'll stick in some people's throats a little bit that tax increase will affect people, vital people like head teachers of schools and GPs, you know, working in the health service, but not affect the vast majority of MPs. They'll escape your new tax.
Well, it will affect all those MPs who are holding front bench positions, ministers in particular, and all those MPs who have additional roles and additional payments as part of their parliamentary duties. But also, it will affect many of those MPs who've got second jobs as well. So we're trying to strike a level of fairness here. And as I say, we're trying to protect the 95% of middle and low earners within our economy. And as you say, look, no one likes increasing taxes, but what we've got to do is recognise that our public services are in crisis at the moment. And I think the British public feel that we can all make a little bit more of a contribution to those higher earners so that we can have our children taught in schools where class sizes aren't increasing and teachers are being laid off at the moment, where our health service, well, the waiting lists we prevent them going up and there aren't people being treated in trolleys in corridors.
Here's the problem, is that there is a school of thought that says that you come over very eloquently today, as you have done on the campaign, a good advocate for your party, certainly many feel better than your leader. However, you now have a new guy running your campaign called Andrew Murray, the Chief of Staff to Len McCluskey, General Secretary of Unite, the union, who, until very recently, has been a long-standing senior member of the Communist Party of Britain. This is a guy now effectively heading your campaign. This is a man who said about Stalin, he bemoaned the fact that hack propagandists abominate the name of Stalin. He said about North Korea that the basic position of solidarity for his Communist Party of Britain should be with people's Korea. That's Kim Jong-un. I mean, you've got a guy in charge of your party now who basically wants us to, apparently, to show solidarity with one of the most outrageous dictators on the planet.
Well, he's one of our volunteers that's come in to help, and I think he's challenged all of those statements. And he's a member of the Labour Party now. Do you know, I'm glad we're converting people to our party. You know, Peter Mandelson was a member of the Communist Party and before he joined the Labour Party. So people have come to our party from different strains, and I'm pleased now that we've been able to convert them to our cause of democratic socialism.